Hey guys, what's going on? Brandon Janis with The Start, guys. I'm super excited for today's guest, and we know him as Mr. Mark, and so you will as well. I don't know his last name. I've never asked him his last name because he's Mr. Mark to my kids and myself. And just a little background: we've been at this RV park in Columbia for about 5 months now, and met Mr. Mark at Donut Wednesday one day, with the kids, and connected with him, and don't know a ton of his story. I know he's got a couple dogs. I know he's got an RV, but don't know a ton of his story. And so I ran into him the other day. I said, Mr. Mark, I'm doing this project where we're sharing people's, start stories and people finding their big. And I said, I'd love to interview. I'd love to sit with you. And so I gave him 24 hours. I said, think about what your big would be or big was. And I want you to talk about that with us. So I'm going to just throw it over to Mr. Mark. I'm going to let him tell you anything he wants to tell you about him. But more than anything, I want to know, Mr. Mark, what is or was your big, and how can we help other people start finding theirs?
Well, I have to say that philosophically, I think life is a series of bigs.
Sure.
My big one was my last big one before I sold my house in Austin, Texas, and loaded up my then one dog in an RV I bought, and I just headed out, my thoughts being just to visit historical markers and siblings and relatives I hadn't seen in 30, 40, 50 years. And the biggest aspect of that for me is that it has worked out pretty much 99% of the way I had envisioned it for 5 years before I retired. And among other things, I had a lot of people where I'd be, and they'd ask me what I was doing. I said, I'm about ready to retire, sell my house, get an RV, and hit the road. And most people who happen to be men would kind of get this faraway look in their eye like, wow, what that must be like, And that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
So what did you do prior to your work life? What was your work life like?
Gotcha.
And then so this was your big 5 years before you retired, about is when you started thinking about this, or was it before that, or is that about right?
It was before that, hit and miss. There were two predominant themes in my life. Number one was getting into an RV and traveling around this country, because this country is far too big to just kind of limit yourself or restrict yourself. And I got that from a Walt Disney, Hans Christian Andersen movie.
Interesting.
And he was living on a barge boat in Europe.
Yeah.
They're kind of space specific. And I always thought, oh, that's perfect. That's all the space you need.
Yeah, wow.
And then Falling Dreams led to a career, and what basically procreated my ability to do what I'm doing now, and I was a parachute rigger in the United States Army.
Really?
And I went to rigger school in '77. That was after a tour in Vietnam in 1969. And
well, thank you for your service.
You're very welcome, and thank you. And that was my job for 30 plus years. And I can't tell you, compared to an RV's life, people might hear my other stories about my jumping, which was both military and civilian.
Okay.
And go, how do you beat jumping out of a plane over the German jump school looking at the Alps?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'll tell you how you beat it. Is you stop anywhere in America, and you find a historical marker that says, among other things, this was one of the Pony Express stops.
Right.
That pales by comparison.
Wow.
I think it does. Because I don't like to be too haughty.
Yeah. Okay, so let me ask you this then. So, what obstacles or struggles or doubts did you have leading up to this? Because you left everything behind. You sold everything. You got rid of everything. You got your RV. You got your truck. You got your pups, and you hit the road. And so you've been on the road 5 years.
Exactly.
Okay,
since '09.
What obstacles? Because a lot of people, we talked about this the other day. A lot of people talk about doing these things. They talk about, man, it'd be cool if, it'd be neat if, it'd be great if I did these things. But you did it, right? You didn't just talk about it, you went and did it. But leading up to that, what were the obstacles or the challenges or anything that came your way, if any you can think of?
Well, the obstacles are, I think, pretty common among most people, and that is logistics and financials.
Okay.
And those are the two big things. Contrary to what some people may feel, And in as much as it does get difficult, letting go of stuff
This is good.
is a
This
very
is good.
letting
This
go
is
of
good.
stuff is a very crucial thing. Because it's a lot, like some people, they built a lifetime in a given
Sure.
community.
Sure.
And I do not fault for 1 nanosecond anybody that meets their requisites of happiness.
Yeah.
Happiness
Sure.
is a wide spectrum
Yeah.
definition for me.
So you got rid of everything. Like that's all you own there. There's no storage back in Dallas or Austin, or that's it.
The only thing I've got in storage is in the attic of a friend's house in Austin, Texas.
Gotcha.
And it's not all that much.
Gotcha.
But everything else, yes, it's in the RV.
So let me ask you. Okay, so you did that. You took that step. You had planned it for a few years. You made it happen. You're now doing it, and I love how you said it's gone 99% how I envisioned. So what is that? And maybe you don't know, but what's the 1% that's not?
That is also part of my life's philosophy. Perfection is elusive.
Got it.
So I
Got
always
it.
like to leave that part out
Sure.
that I may not ever be able to attain, either by desire
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
or other, again, logistical or financial obstacles. I don't see that happening, but I'm not there yet, so I might as well just kind of chill.
No, great. So let me ask you this: if you weren't doing this, what would you be doing?
That is a great question. One of two things. I might be a Federal Aviation Agency parachute rigger,
Okay.
working at a drop zone somewhere in the United States. Maybe there's a huge drop zone civilian in Dubai. Of all
Okay.
places.
That's a good place
I
to
could
go.
be there.
Yeah.
I might be working back here in Columbia, where I grew up as a little lad,
Okay.
in a bicycle shop. Because
Gotcha.
after I retired, I went to bicycle mechanic school. Believe it
Really?
or not.
Just cause?
Because I had lived and worked in Austin for the military for 8 years without a car.
Got it.
Kind of stumbled into it, backed into it, but it turned out to be quite a wonderful experience.
Wow.
So I just got around on a bike, mass transit, or friends going to the same place.
Wow.
And,
Gotcha.
So that I've got 2 bikes in the front of my
Well, I
RV.
we
that
see you
nobody,
riding your bike. He rides his bike now, but now you got a bike, a truck, and an RV. So you went from no getting around to a bike, or you had a bike at first.
Yeah.
Now you have all this. Okay, so let me ask you this. So you found that big. You started. You're in it. You're living it, right? You're
Yes.
doing it right now.
Yes.
So what is your big today? What is it that you look at today and you think that's my thing?
That's a great question. Everything to me is what opportunities crop up.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons I like being around RVers is because most have been to places that I've not been to, and I go, hey, so where's the best place in Maine?
Yeah.
And if they might know. But each day, in its own encapsulated fashion, is the big for the moment. Because I very much believe in the notion that we don't know if we're going to get tomorrow.
Sure.
And so you got to live each day as full as you can. Doesn't mean you need to do some Baklavian, I believe, is after the Roman god Bacchus. I'm not advocating people drinking wine and blowing the pan flute, But anyway, so it's every day. And believe me, once I started the big, I contemplated, what would happen if it happens. And I wake up one day and I go, wow, this was not a good move,
Sure.
So I really gave a lot of that stuff a lot of thought, and it was a pretty quick thought.
Yeah.
And thus far, it's worked out, just the way I've envisioned
That's
it. I mean,
amazing.
there's been some left turns involving relatives
Sure.
who passed that I happened to see for the first time in 40, 50 years.
Wow.
And while I was there, this was in California, they got real sick and passed. And I was sitting there going, boy, if you don't think there's a God, I mean,
because you probably would have never seen them again had you not taken this path.
the planning, the timing
Wow,
of that
that's
which I cannot
good.
control is so exquisite, which is why. And I'll tell you, here's the crux of it all, I believe. If I could put it in a thumbnail over sketch, if you really believe you want something deep in your heart, and I think most of the time that does come naturally, I think you're absolutely capable of attaining that.
Sure. No doubt about it. Well, man, that's powerful. That's a powerful aha for me. Whether you're living the RV life or you're not, that means nothing. But
Exactly.
what I heard there is, man, reach out to those relatives, reach out to those friends, connect with those people, because you never know when, you might not get to anymore.
That's right.
And the fact that this lifestyle allowed you to do that. Doesn't mean you have to go get an RV. Doesn't mean you have to go do, but if nothing else from this, I hope y'all take away that, because to a lot of people, Mark, that's their big is, I need to rekindle that relationship with so-and-so. I need to talk to so-and-so, right? And the issue is the leading up to it's the problem. Once you start doing it and make that first call or make that first connection, it's downhill.
It's
you
easy.
coast.
It's
but
so easy.
And that's our whole purpose here. We just want people to start living and start doing these things you've been thinking about for so long.
Think of a big.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people, as Thoreau said, live their lives in quiet desperation.
Yes.
And I think those are people that just didn't think past the end of their nose,
Yeah.
But if you have one scintilla of a thought that says, oh, I really always wanted to learn to play the violin, for instance,
Yes.
hey, by all means,
Yes.
you should really try to make that happen in your life.
That is so true. That is so true.
The level of self-satisfaction is just beyond belief
No.
once you get there.
Well, it's true, and I said it the other day in another interview I did. I said, man, I've never regretted trying something. I've never regretted going for something, but I've often regretted not asking, not pursuing, not doing, right? And so I think you're a person that has very little regret in your life, which is a cool thing.
Very little.
Yeah.
I
mean, because you just pursue what you want to pursue and you go do it, and and you create relationships along the way, which is really neat. And I want to kind of close with this. Mark had to go back to Austin a couple months back, and he wasn't sure if we were going to be here when he got back. So, we were neighbors at the time in the RV park, and he grabbed me and he said, "Hey, I just wanted to tell you something." He said, and I'll never forget this, and I've shared this with many people, because, he'd known us for a few months, and he said, Brandon, I want to tell you something. And he got a little emotional. He got a little teary-eyed. He said, I would take a bullet for your kids. And I don't know if anyone's ever told me that in my life. And then he said, and by me saying that, it means I take a bullet for you too, you and your wife as well.
Yeah, well,
and I said, man, I don't even know how to respond to that, but that's the kind of person this man is. And obviously we're just seeing a little of his story, but his story is so much bigger and so much broader. But man, I want to surround myself with people like Mr. Mark. I want to know that I have people in my corner like Mr. Mark. And I hope he never has to take a bullet for me or my kids, but knowing that you have people like that you just don't know. If it would have never been for this chapter of our life, I would have never met Mr. Mark. Mr. Mark and I didn't run in the same circles. We wouldn't have just connected at a Walmart. But it makes me think, man, I need to be more present and more aware of people in my life, man, because I can't imagine not having him in my life, in my kid's life, by not having this chapter. So I wanted to share that story with you, because you just never know. You never know. Mr. Mark living in an RV with his two dogs, and his bike. A story that I still don't even know, and I can't wait to learn more about him. But has impacted my life in a way that he can't even imagine, by that one conversation he had, and the way he treats my children and the way he treats my wife. And I'm thankful for you, man.
I appreciate that, brother. You must know it goes so both ways.
Well,
that's the reason I said what I said about, looking the most after your kids, because you as a family, I mean, you can run into anybody that's been here for at least a month and they all know your family.
Well, we're thankful for you, man.
I mean, I'm just,
So here's what I can almost assure you: Mr. Mark is not on Facebook. I don't think on social media.
I am on Facebook,
okay,
and I never go there.
Exactly. I figured that wasn't his lifestyle. Normally, this is the time where I say, "Where can we find Mr. Mark?" You can find Mr. Mark in the RV park in Columbia, Missouri. That's where he is right now. I don't know where he'll be in the coming months, but he's here, and he's a dear friend of mine. So if you want to connect with Mr. Mark, you connect with me, and I can't thank you enough for inspiring us.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
It's been a great pleasure having made your acquaintance. I mean, you're a family that every American, I believe, should look to as an example about what you want in terms of functionability within the family, that which allows people to grow. the ability to get through the tough times, because the easy times, that's like
That's
pulling
the
your
good-
pants
yeah,
down and sliding
That's
on the
it.
ice.
That's it. Thank you, Mark.
Thank
hey,
you, bud.
again, Brandon Janis with the Start Guys and Mr. Mark. Thank you, guys. Talk to y'all soon.
Two
Bye-bye.
thumbs up.
There we go.